Hey everybody, welcome back. Today we're going to be looking at the Boolean OR. Okay, a Boolean, just to review, is a data type. Let's think about data types for a second. There are different data types we've been using in our coding. We have used numerics, we have used string data. Those are different data types. A Boolean is just simply another data type. A Boolean is a data type that can only have two possible values. And those two values are either true or false. So it's either true or false. We've used Booleans before in our if statements and while loops. Okay, the conditionals used, and these are expressions that, again, must either be true or false. We even see it in our game loop, while true. Okay, so in other words, as long as the game is going, it's just going to continue forever until we either win the game or end the game. So those are Boolean expressions. The statement or loop is executed if the condition is true and not executed if the condition is false. Now I'm in Code Combat on level 26, which is called Salted Earth. And we're going to take a look at the code, but before we do, I just want to take a moment and pause at the goals page before we start actually going into our level. The goals for this particular level is gather all the coins, defeat all the ogres. And it says this level introduces the concept of the Boolean OR, and that's the operator we're going to be looking at today. Now, placing an OR between two Boolean values will return a single Boolean value, much like plus takes two numbers and spits out another number. Okay, so there's math going on behind the scenes. You don't have to worry too much about that. Basically, what we do have to think or keep in mind is that the OR returns true if either the value before or after is true, or it returns false if both are false. So let's take a look here at this little example here. So this is going to illustrate what OR returns based on the combination of two values. Now, this hero say, this is our hero say function, which we're familiar with. It just simply spits out like a thought balloon or a word balloon on the screen. And what the heroes, depending on what the hero is going to say, will depend on the OR, what's evaluated. So we're just throwing two falses, okay? And if you have two values that evaluate to false in an OR, a Boolean OR, then that whole statement is going to evaluate to false. So this whole thing will be false, and the hero will say false. Okay? Now, if you have a situation where one of the things being evaluated is false and the other is true, then the whole statement evaluates to true. So if you have a true in there, even if the other one's false, that statement's going to be evaluated as true. Okay, it's the same difference here on this line, true or false, false or true, that's going to be true. That whole statement's going to end up being true. And if both are true, of course, the whole statement is going to be true. So the only time a Boolean OR statement is false is if everything in that statement evaluates to false. The other examples are going to end up being true. If one thing is true and the other is false, the whole statement is going to be true. If both are true, it's going to be true. Okay, so that's basically how it works. So let's see it. Let's take a look and see it in action. I'm going to start the level. So in our code, we're going to check the comments to see what they're saying, what they're asking us to do, or what the situation is. It says ogres are attacking a nearby settlement. Be careful though, for the ogres have sown the ground with poison. Gather coins and defeat the ogres, but avoid the burrows and the poison. So here we have a vial of poison. Here's a burrow. We don't want to fight that. We only want to fight the munchkins or the throwers, the smaller enemies. So normally we would just look for if enemy. We would just check for it if there's an enemy. But in this case, since we need to differentiate between different kinds of enemies, remember we're going to have three types of enemies. We're going to have a burrow, and we're going to have a thrower and a munchkin. Okay, we want to avoid the burrows. We don't want to attack them. We only want to attack, as I said, the other types of enemies, the munchkins or the throwers. So we're going to need to differentiate. So to do that, we are going to check a property of enemy, which is the type property. Type is going to tell us what kind of enemy it is, not simply that there's an enemy. So if we're going to look for an enemy, again, this program's just a little bit different. They decided not to check to see if there's an enemy first. They're just kind of letting us just assume there's an enemy. Okay, normally we would first check for the enemy, then check enemy type, but they're going to skip that. So in this example on line 7, the conditional statement is checking enemy type. Now notice that we have one complete, we're checking one complete enemy here. Enemy type equal Munchkin. Munchkin is in quotes. Be careful how you spell Munchkin. And then it's followed by our Boolean OR. Okay, in lowercase OR, and you'll see that it changes it changes color. You'll see it's a blue color. That signifies a keyword. And we follow that with another complete check of thrower. We have to repeat. Okay, we can't say if enemy type equal Munchkin or equal thrower. We have to actually put the whole, we have to again repeat enemy dot type, followed by two equal signs, and then thrower and quotes. Okay, so we're both looking for a string. So the way this works is if this is a Munchkin, we're going to attack it. If it's not a Munchkin and it's a thrower, we're going to attack it. So either one of these, well, basically one of these has to be true, but if they're both false, they can't be true at the same time. But even if they were, or if one is true and the other's false, this whole statement, this whole if statement on line 7 will evaluate to true. Okay, so only one of these things has to be true. Now, if both are false, let's say there's no enemy at that moment, or there's another enemy, a burrow standing there, then both of these are going to end up being false, and then we're just going to skip this line 8 and just continue with our program. So one of these has to be true, both can be true, or they both have to be false. Those are the situations. Now so again, it's conceivable that they could be, I guess they could be true at the same time if you have two enemies coming out at the same time, Munchkin and a thrower. So again, true, or one is true and one is false, both are true, that will evaluate the true. If both are false, that evaluates the false. Okay, then the next line is here, we're going to find the nearest item. So as I said before in the previous video, we're going to use our pattern to figure out how to code this. So if you look at line 7, we'll just follow the pattern. Okay, if item dot type equals gem, or item type equal coin, then move and pick it up. Okay, so we'll obviously need to use the hero move XY command. And as I said in the previous video, we don't need to know where these items are. We can get that information from item itself. And by using item and then its property POS position, and that position's property X or Y, we can automatically know where the item is going to be on our game board. Okay, so that's what we're going to do. Now let's run the program and see if this is going to work. So on line 12, if the item is gem or item is coin, both of those are valid. Okay, if these are both false, we can assume that the item is poison. We don't want to pick it up. If either one of these are true, we do want to pick it up. So let's try it. You can see him attacking different enemies. Now we have the burl here. He's just ignoring the burl because the burl is not a Munchkin or a thrower. Okay, so whenever an enemy comes out that's a Munchkin or a thrower, he attacks it. He's avoiding the poison. You see that he's not touching it. He's going to each item. It's a coin or a gem. He'll pick it up. Okay, here's another enemy. Okay, picks up another coin. Here comes another enemy. There's another coin and more poison. He's going to ignore the poison, picks up the item, and it should be good. So we've succeeded with this level. So just review. If you have any questions, let me know. We'll continue with the logical and in our next video.